Did you ever feel underestimated before by somebody of your family, at school, a colleague? Well, so did I. I was born not with one or two, but with 30 fractures. And I was already underestimated by the time I was born. The doctors gave me only 2 months to live. There was no hope. So how did I end up here, talking with all of you? Resilience brought me here. As a child, I passed most of my time in the hospital because I was breaking my legs all the time. I would fall, break my legs, go to the hospital, stay at least 1 month, then starting rehabilitating on my own without any therapist to relearn how to walk, step by step, each day at a time, till I eventually would fall again, break my legs, go back to the hospital, repeating this cycle over and over and over again. Because my bones weren't resilient, I had to be. Luckily, from the moment I was a teenager, afterwards, I stopped breaking my legs. So I did what everybody does. I went out, I went to the high school, it was so nice. And actually, I remember I was in a bar, I was around 17, in my hometown, Aveiro, in Portugal. And I saw, by then, the tallest guy I ever seen in my whole life. He came to join the basketball team of the city, and I was amazed. He was surely taller than 2 meters. And probably he thought the same when he saw me. He probably thought, I never saw such a small girl in my life. So I went to him because I was so overwhelmed with how tall he was. And I told him how cool I found it, how tall he was. And he looked at me. He came down on his knees. Yes, because men often come down on their knees for me. And he looked to me and he said in his voice of a man who is taller than 2 meters high, "Yes, baby, that's because you're too short. But when we make love, we all the same size." So, as I told before, I was often underestimated in my life because I am a girl, because I wanted to become an artist, and because I have a visible limitation. Well, we all have our limitations, and in my case, it's visible. But I took again my experience from younger to fall, to start walking, to start walking and fall again and start walking. And I took it into my life to never, never, never give up on myself. And to not allow that these factors, that were all against me, and other people's opinions would allow and limit the way I would define myself. So I decided, there was a moment in my life that I really needed to embrace my vulnerability. And I accepted the person I was and my condition. So the first big risk I took, because from the moment you embrace your vulnerability, you become more resilient. So you take more risks. So after my high school, I decided to go and study in the art school in Porto for 4 years, living on my own in an apartment in the first floor without elevator. And I had much fun. I had a lot of fun in Porto. I was partying all the time, going to concerts. Once in a while, I would work for the school. It was really cool. And I was hanging around with these guys, and they were graffiti guys. They were doing graffiti all the time, and that was always a little bit my secret wish to be able to do in a city a graffiti. How cool was that? And finally, we had the opportunity to do it together because they just found out a nice wall in Porto under a bridge. And it was like going to be my first time. And I was so excited about that. I was going to do something, because this was in the 90s, very illegal with art. And the day we decided to go and do the graffiti, some of the guys, we were explaining to each other like the last details. And one guy was saying, okay, you're going to do that. We leave at 1 a.m. at night, and you're going to do that. And by the way, if the police comes, we all have to run as fast as possible. Run? What do you mean, like, run? Like, how fast do I have to run? Because... And suddenly, we all we looked to each other, and we realized that we were preparing this for months, and nobody thought about the fact that I couldn't run. One of the guys said, no worries, Fatinha, I'm going to take you in my pocket. I'm going to put you under my arms. No, it's fixed, no problem. And I said, no. I just end up not going. They were really cool because they made a drawing of me, actually. Eventually, the police came. One of the guys was behind bars, just a night. He's actually a famous graffiti. He's traveling all around the world. So, you know, I kind of realized that from the moment you embrace your vulnerability, that actually you actually become resilient, and everything around you is, people are not going to be busy about your vulnerability and how do you feel. So afterwards, I came to Belgium, and actually I started working as an art director, as a graphic designer. But my biggest dream was to become an artist and an illustrator. Do you ever felt when you have a dream and you really want to do it, but you actually delaying it all the time? It's like, tomorrow, next week. It took me 12 years. So there was a day I decided, no. I'm going to take the risk, because I'm going to take my experience as a child when I felt I rehabilitate myself, I start walking every time again. I took it also into my life, because I thought, I'm going to take the risk, because if I fall, I'm going to start to walk again. So I organized a solo exhibition only with my illustrations in Antwerp, called Unbreakable. It was sold out the opening night. I decided to do the opening night on my birthday, so everybody had to come. And this particular illustration that you are looking at on screen was the first illustration not only being sold, but who got international recognition. Normally, you should never explain artwork or illustrations, but I'm going to do an exception just for you today. So you see this elephant, enormous elephant, trying to balance his weight, and the tree on his trunk, standing on these little feet who are standing on very fragile little bamboos, who are actually bones. So on a subtle way, I try to show that we are all breakable. But it's only from the moment you embrace it that you become unbreakable. And this is also with art. I took this into art because as an artist, you need to have a story to tell, and you need to be able to connect with people. And the only way by doing it is also by embracing your vulnerability. Because the more an artist embraces his vulnerability, the more it gives the audience the opportunity to get in touch with their own vulnerability. So when you're going to look at the artwork, whatever from which artist, you're not going to think like, oh, poor little artist, he had such a horrible life. Oh, I feel so sorry for her. Or I see all these bandages. No. You're going to look to certain artworks, and some of them are going to resonate with you. And probably you're not going to know why. And probably it's because you see yourself in it. So by the time I was in the hospital, drawing all the time in my hospital bed, I did it for other reasons. I did it as a coping system. I needed to draw to go away from that painful reality where I was. I needed to give wings to my legs and wings to my body to go away. But afterwards, when I embraced it, when I became an illustrator, even being a woman, an artist, having a visible limitation, I didn't allow that to be on my way. And my art became my identity. So people from all over the world who sees my work, they won't know how short I am, my color, from where I come. They will probably recognize it. So in my work, there's a lot of resilience, because I illustrate sometimes stories, fiction or non-fiction, of people who had to leave their countries because of persecution, who were victims of bullying, who were victims of racism, who are LGBTQ in a society who doesn't understand them, who are female artists. All of them embraced their vulnerability, and they became resilient. And for me, they are an inspiration. So I work as a filter to make it visible to all other people so they also can be inspired. You know, what could have been a sad story becomes beautiful, because it is what art does. Art brings beauty to the world. Resilience and vulnerability are the two opposite sides of the same coin. The more you embrace your vulnerability, the more you become resilient and you accept yourself. We are all vulnerable, but it's only by accepting it that you can connect with others. And this is what I want to do with my art, and this is what brought me so far. Thank you.